Mm.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another all counseling webinar. We've got a great guest today
Yes.
talking about how to let your emotions, for your emotions to take up space in your world. We got Nikenya Hall. I got to meet her a couple weeks ago and I was like, wow, that was one of the best hours I've had in a long time. You, my friend, are full of joy and wisdom. And
Thank you.
I'm
Yes.
really curious. I'm really excited to just be curious learner today. And let's talk about permission for your emotions to take up space. We covered a lot there, and I was
Yeah.
like, if we just start talking, you all are going to really benefit and enjoy hearing from
Yeah.
Nikenya.
Yeah.
So,
Topic is
welcome.
thank you. Thank you. Topic is loaded. It is has a lot of moving pieces and I'm excited to be here. I know the conversation will be exactly what it needs to be. Um we're gonna have a good time, Cory.
I know,
It's gonna be
I know.
it's gonna be a good
I,
time.
I love how you bring the joy party with you. Well, thanks for being here, Nikenya. And if you have questions for Nikenya as we go, please. Nikenya, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your professional training, your practice now, anything else you want us to know about who you are in this world?
Absolutely, absolutely. I am a New York City transplant, and what that means is I'm not originally from the city. I'm originally from Oklahoma. So I'm a few states away right now. I've been in New York for 11 years. I just celebrated 11, so I call both of those states home interchangeably. Um, Professionally, I did undergrad and grad in mental health counseling. I am a Sooner, pause for dramatic effect. um, and and about ooh, my goodness. Ooh, let's just say a couple of years ago. I started integrating spirituality and energy work into my profession, and I LLC'd in 2016. Achieving Balance Counseling and Holistic Center, that is the name of my business. And from that journey, I integrate thoughts, emotions, and also the third narrative, what's in our soul, what's in the room around us. Um, what does that look like? You know, I saw that within just traditional therapeutic space, um, it didn't leave a lot of room for that third narrative. And so I bring that into my work. I'm also an author. My book, Letters to Grief, is on Amazon, also my website. So I do have an affinity to what that looks like, what that means, how does that show up in our lives. I do workshops, webinars, and I like my whiskey neat. I love Crown. Little bit about me. Little bit about
Oh, what an intro. I love that.
yeah.
Okay, I put links to Nikenya's website, her practice, and also her book in the chat there. They'll be in the show notes later for those watching afterwards. Okay, there's a lot there, so it's going to be fun to explore all this.
Yeah.
When we talked a couple weeks ago, you know, we talked about the feminine superpower a little bit.
Yeah.
We talked about intuition, and as if you can't see me, I'm a white guy from Oklahoma. So there's a lot here for me to learn from. Okay. So I'm
Yeah.
going to be curious questioner. But in this whole subject, Nikenya,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you want to start with talking about that? And then we'll branch out from there. So how does all that hit you? How does it set with you? Permission to give your emotions space,
Yeah.
all those kind of concepts we talked about. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you?
You know, I think there has been so much of a narrative that emotions are bad. I identify and I am a Black woman. Um, so especially for those of us that fall under that umbrella of being a woman and especially a woman of color, there has been this narrative that emotions are bad, that and they're only They should only show up in certain very specific things, right? And even in those specific narratives, there's only a certain way that your emotions can show up. And I don't like that. I don't like it.
Yeah.
And you know, other side of the same coin is going to always keep me in business, because people will always want and need to know how their emotions are affecting all the other areas. But why don't we be proactive and just scale it all the way back? Emotions are not bad. Emotions are not negative. So why can't we just make space for it? Why don't we just pull up the chair to the table? And then the work I do, I extend that even bigger. Pull up your emotions. Your emotions can have a seat at the table, but what about our sixth sense, our intuition? And then what about the whole other narrative that's playing with us within this world, the other world that's also interacting? Let's expand. Let's expand. There's so many more chairs that need to be at the table. So all of those things intersect. So let's start there with just emotions are not bad. They are not wrong. Unless you can turn off your meat suit, which you cannot. Let's just go ahead and give them a place at the table, because why not? Why not?
Okay. First thing for you. I don't want to stop you or slow you down, because I want you to keep going on this. I love it. First thing that comes up for me is I'm scared of my emotions. So when you say take up space, and I can fully empathize, if not understand it fully, the fact that a female in today's society would have different fears than I do about my fears as a white man.
Yes.
But I go, I'm scared of my emotions. Like, that's why I go negative and bad. I go, okay, tell me more.
Right.
How do I help them?
Right. And my question is, who said we should be scared?
Me.
Who or what? Who or what said we should be afraid of how we operate? So now let's just do cellular level, right? If I hook you, myself, anyone up to machines, our emotion, literally our body triggers and fires off different responses to emotions. So on a cellular physiological level, emotions are how we run, how we operate, how we show up. Flight or fight are emotion based. So even when we're talking about old brain, now we're going into anthropology. I'm covering all the subjects, right? We're getting into old brain, flight or fight. That is an emotional response. So how did it get that we should be scared or afraid of them? Who or what gave us that narrative? And are they or are that thing correct? And for the listeners, I really want us to pause here. Like, I want you to be like, who gave me the narrative around emotions? Was it parents? Was it my upbringing? Did society tell me? Was it my different communities? You know, like maybe my religious community has told me how to emote. Maybe no one told me how to emote. And so I picked it up from TV, media. Maybe that taught me what and how I'm supposed to do with my emotions. Okay. And let me just give you the answer. Those that said they were wrong, scared, you shouldn't emote, that was wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, it's part of the system. I love that.
Part of the system. Necessary.
Essential. Like
essential.
Those same emotions helped us in the savannah, right?
Exactly. I cannot show up to work and bawl my eyes out for 8 hours. Can't do it, right? there was a time for Black and brown people, if we emoted in a wrong way, it was our livelihood. Our literally our livelihood was in jeopardy. Right? I go outside my house and I act a certain way, I emote a certain way, I am imprisoned, I lose freedom, I lose my life, right? For Black and brown people. So that narrative was valid and essential for a while. But now we see what happens when we don't emote, when we don't allow our emotions to take up space. We see it now. Society has advanced in a way that we can have this conversation. We couldn't have had this conversation 50 years ago. Me and you wouldn't have been in the same spot 50 years ago, theoretically, systematically. Right. So it's like, who or what said I should be scared of my emotions? And is that narrative right, correct? We start there.
Okay. So we talk and we say essential to living, kind of need them.
Yep.
They're great examples that you've shared from the past of it's a new day where we can have this even but beyond some of the human conflict, racial issues that are multi-generational.
Very good. Yes.
We are now in a space culturally as a world to actually have a safe conversation about it.
Have a safe yes. Yes.
So that's exciting for one. So permission to have them.
Permission.
I mean, it's almost, you kind of almost stated like, you don't even have to have them. You got them. They're essential. Don't forsake them.
Yes. Permission to acknowledge, right? Because we have them, period. Now, this is very interesting. I would probably say, and I giggle a little bit, I would probably say 15, probably 20% of my clients will come and they go, something's wrong, but I don't, and then once we start exploring, they'll go, but I don't experience emotions. Like, I don't feel throughout the day. I don't have them. About 20%. And I'm like, interesting. You don't have, no, I don't feel. So there is still a little sliver of just, you have them, period. There's, you have them. So then we now move on to permission to acknowledge them. Next step, permission to allow them to exist, take up space. We jump from, if I acknowledge them, then that means that I will do this or that. If I acknowledge that I am sad today, that automatically means that I will be crying all day and I can't function. If I acknowledge my anger, if I acknowledge that you hurt me, if I acknowledge that I feel betrayed, if I acknowledge that I'm annoyed, then it automatically means this behavior will be present. And that's not true. If we expand, if we give them permission, we can exist with a whole host of emotions with us, in us at all times, and choose a different behavior. We're doing it already. We're never just on one note of emotion. We are never that. There's one that's at the top of the pot. We try to make the ones that feel good go to the top of the pot. But we are always an emotional soup at all times. We're multifaceted people.
Okay. So here's my butt.
Okay. Give it to me, Cory. Come on.
So I'm trying to acknowledge that I'm a male in this and have a unique, maybe, perspective on all this. But I also go, when you say, hey, let's talk about emotions and how to that getting to the expansion and the behavior part. I go, please include me in the question, because my therapist, you're going to love this. So I'm talking to my therapist earlier this week, and I said, I go to experts when I consult and stuff like that. I've got my logical side. I go, I don't have this knowledge. I'm going to go to someone, i.e. you today, and go, share with me experience and expertise. And he goes, his expert opinion was, you lack love. And I was like, thanks, man, because he nailed it though.
Yeah.
He nailed it, because when I say I'm scared of my emotions, I'm scared of that one too, because I don't understand it. And I'm being open and honest about that, saying, and I don't think I'm alone in this, particularly from a male perspective, but hey, there's a lot going on inside me from day to day.
Yeah.
When you say expand, I get scared because I'm like, it feels like a nuclear explosion in there, sometimes.
Right.
And then, but I know, because I push it down, try to bury it, numb it, avoid it, whatever it is, it's gotten to this level where it feels like the nuclear explosion.
Right. Because, so this is good. Acknowledging what our emotions are is different than experiencing the emotion. We think that's one and the same. So let's do right now. If I do a check-in and acknowledge what emotions are present for me in this moment, I am nervous. I'm trepidatious. I'm excited. I'm energetic. I'm also on guard. Those are the 5, and there's plenty more, but those are the 5 I can acknowledge. Just because I have acknowledged that I'm on guard in this moment does not mean that I need to go ahead and go into being defensive, right? Or being like, let me protect myself. You don't have to jump into those things. I am choosing to lean into the energetic for this experience, but all of those other emotions are just as present. So we get scared because we think, if I acknowledge, then I have to experience, and then what is the behavior with it? When I say allow them to take up space, I would love for us to get to the experiential part, that I can be nervous and on guard and energetic, and I can hold those things at once. I would love for us to get to that practice, but I will take just acknowledging and understanding that I don't have to experience and then even go further with do something with it. I don't have to do all those 3 steps. But we need to acknowledge. If we acknowledge it and understand that I don't have to go all the way to that 3rd step, it takes the fear away. Because the fear is, if I say I'm angry, then anger's in my body, and then what do I do with it? I'm giving you another perspective, though. Just say that you're angry, and maybe you don't have to do anything with it. Maybe you do feel anger in your body, but you don't need to curse anybody out. You don't you don't need to do that. Maybe just acknowledge it. Or you've been doing this practice all along. I just want you to take away the compartmentalization. I want you to just take the lid off. I'm not saying bust down the compartmental boundaries and the walls. I'm saying take the lid off.
And we take the lid off by recognizing, acknowledging, I'm sensing anger. I am sensing whatever the emotions. I want to make a quick comment before we go on. One of the most beautiful things I've seen in it all week was when you go, here's the emotions and I was like, oh my God, that was authentic. That was human.
Yeah.
There was one part I go, oh gosh, I don't want her to be scared. I don't want to scare her. But I
Yeah.
go, but it was so natural and authentic for you to go, of those 5, you happen to mention 1 or 2. I was like, I hope I don't do anything to, I want to help create safety and all these things. But I go, how incredibly refreshing.
Right.
Because what you chose, you might have felt these in the past when we were talking before this webinar, but you chose to be here. But you've acknowledged them, and you still, like you said, take that lid off. I love that. Like, take the
Yeah.
lid off, count them. Okay, these are on here, but I'm going to proceed anyway with this particular weapon for your action. This video, I'm going to proceed anyway.
Right. Do it, show up, but acknowledge. That's how we let it have a seat at the table. Because what happens is we kick the chair away and be like, I don't even want to say that I'm scared, because scared means I'm weak, or scared means what, we attach all these perceptions onto emotions, which we can pivot there if we want to. So then we kick the chair away. And I'm saying, you kick the chair away from the table doesn't mean that the chair is not in the room.
Yeah.
Your emotions are still present and accounted for. Even if you're like, no, I'm not feeling that. Oh, okay. But if you pull the chair up, you stop the internal fight. You also take your power back, which is the opposite of scared. I'm scared of the emotions. When you pull that chair up to the table and say, this, and this is here, you take your power back and say, all of these can exist at the same time. I might be trepidatious through the whole interview today, podcast today, webinar today. And that's okay. I don't need to play like that I'm not. I'm not going to wrestle with myself. I'm not going to exhaust myself. I am going to lean into inquisitive, being excited. But those things don't mean they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
But I can hold them all. I'm not scared.
They can stay at the table, but you're like, hey, these other 3 chairs, I'm gonna choose to experience or act
Exactly.
and act on.
Exactly.
You're still here. I acknowledge you. I'm not trying to ignore you.
Exactly. You have your water, but me and the other ones over here, we on some wine. You know what I'm saying? We really keep in. We over here doing the dance. You're still here, but you're not just in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, in theory, compartmentalization with the lid off.
Yeah.
And we want to shift there. Instead of, no, you don't need to be at the table. I'm not feeling that. That's not a no. I mean, you can live in delusional land if you want to, but it's still there.
Yeah. Like it or not, it's there. And is that where Nikenya, when we ignore, push aside, numb it, whatever, try to get these to a base level neutral, that becomes our haunted ghosts of some sense of her. I don't know the technical approach psychologically to it, but I hear the hungry ghosts, quite a bit.
Just because the chair is not at the table doesn't mean that the chair is not there. So even if we think just like very practically, if we do a visualization, if you have a whole side of the room stacked up with all these chairs, eventually, right, the equilibrium of that room, that side is heavy. When people go into your room, come into your space, interact with you, they're going to see all the stacked up chairs. We see the people that's running from the uncomfortable emotions, grief, sadness, loneliness, anger, depression. We see them. We see it on them. It's not our job to be like, you want to take care of them chairs over there? That's not our job. We got other things to worry about, right? But the fact that we even think that, oh, if I put these emotions out of my brain, out of my mind, and try to put them over here to show up in a certain way, actually that's false, because other people see all your stacked up chairs. We're not going to call you on it,
Right.
but we see it. So the thing that you're trying to do is actually like backfiring.
Yep.
So just pull up the chair to the table, to not fight with it, to have a more balanced room, to show up more holistically. That's what I mean when we give it permission to take up the space. Now,
And then
for
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Cory.
Oh, I was just gonna say there's a when I'll speak for myself, don't acknowledge, I have in essence denied a part
Yes,
of my existence. And
yes,
probably there's an outward external feature that action in my world, if
yes,
I park sadness, anger,
yes,
and ignore, it's going to come out. But I also am not respecting that in the human condition.
yes, yes. We're all having dinner together. The person who's talking a whole lot, you're like, oh, that's insecurity right there.
Yep.
And they think, oh, if I show up like this, and if I control the conversation, then they won't see what I'm insecure about. Oh, my love.
100%.
The
Well,
person at dinner table who's sad and checking out, we see it in their face and their demeanor and their body, even though they're like, this is great. My love, we see it.
yeah, you can tell
We see it.
emotional resonance and uh, you kind of tell.
Yeah, yeah. And when you talk about the humanity aspect, we all have experienced those uncomfortable emotions. So if you show up and say, sadness is here today, no one's going to be like, oh, what is sadness? Oh my God, you're experiencing sadness? Who are you? We're going to be like, oh, I know that guy. I know sadness. Take up space. We allowed to take up the space.
Okay, so far we talked emotions, like it or not, are the human operated manual.
Yes.
We talked about acknowledging, taking the lid off. Okay, now in our past conversation, we talked a lot of people you work with, what you've experienced in your own life
Yeah.
is that's like, wait a minute, you're going to bring in the physical material world. Wait, don't bring your emotions here. Like,
Right.
because others are uncomfortable with those emotions if we shun them. But one of the byproducts of all that is obviously not allowing people to acknowledging hey, you've got
Yeah.
emotions.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about like intuition and different things, but
Yeah.
in the context of the feminine perspective,
Yeah.
what's your message there? So we've said emotions are a part of it. I think
Yep.
that message, by the way, we know needs to get out more. It's
Right.
essential. It's okay.
Right.
I have a ton of more stuff on that for another webinar. But so now, what do you think the message we need to hear? Okay, so permission to take up space. You have them. Okay, now we get into this. How do we allow them to take up space in our outer reality?
Right.
Or because I think part of the permission word is, hey, you got them. You
You
can
know,
take the lid off.
absolutely. One of the things, so I'm going to take us on a little ride, but I'm going to get there. I really came to this realization after my mother transitioned. It'll be 6 years next month, actually. And even in my master's in human relations counseling and my spirit work, I had never felt such intense, palatable emotions. And I was in a space where I couldn't contain them. So the joy that you see, like that's my personality. Like I am a bubbly person. Like that's not fake. Like I'm a bubbly person. But I was in a season where the bubbliness was non-existent. And it was almost like martyring myself to try to be bubbly when it was not there. So I made a it wasn't even like I had no other option in my perspective, that grief or whatever emotion is there is going to show up in all my spaces. You either gonna rock out or not, right? I came to that. How on day-to-day basis, on the smallest scale, how do I allow emotions to take up spaces? When you ask me how I'm doing, if I am not fine, I do not say fine. That's the pact that I made for myself. I might say I'm okay. I might say there's been better times, or I might say sadness is here today. Grief is here today. I might say that. That's the first thing, the first contract, the little things I do daily that allow my emotions to take up space. Speaking of us women, I think when I realized that the narrative that being emotional was bad was from the patriarchy anyway. So I'm fed this idea from someone that is totally different than me. Not totally, but different from me. If, and this is now like anthropology, if women were in position of power, I believe that would be a different narrative. Because my emotions create a sense of home. My emotions create a sense of love. My intuitiveness allows me to see you more than what you're presenting, and I can hold space for that. My container is vast. My emotional bandwidth is large because I know how they exist within me. Someone labeling that as moody, I don't subscribe to that narrative. I'm not subscribing to the narrative that if I speak with my hands and with passion, that I am now an angry Black woman. I am not subscribing to that narrative. I'm allowing it to take up space. Your view of me does what for myself? Negates the conversation, the contract I've had with me. I'm not going to give you that power. I'm not going to give you that power. Allow it to take up space. Even another example, at the dinner table, while we're doing our check-in, right? We're connecting as a family. Are we checking in with our emotions? Allow it to take up space there. That's a little change.
Mm-hmm.
In your meeting with your supervisor, hey, how are you doing today? I'm a little stressed. I'm ready to get to this meeting. And I didn't say but. Be very clear and conscious. I did not say but, because I'm not negating that. But I am allowing my emotions to have the seat at the table. And maybe your boss is like, you tell me, this quarter has been crazy. Let's see what we can do about it. My God, look at that shift. Look at that shift.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We're given the opportunity to, it seems like, to recognize probably there's a resonant feature to that too. If you're in the meeting, third quarter profit, whatever it is, you're like, well, these things are sitting at my table and you got the language to say that. And yesterday I was in this all day meeting with a bunch of entrepreneurs and somebody shared pretty authentically. And I turn and I go, anybody else resonate? Did you feel it? Do you feel it for you? That, human heartbeat?
Yeah. I think, societal wise, we have experienced unprecedented, hard couple of years. And for us to not lean into the emotional state of what we're in, we are missing a big point.
Mm.
How can we even try to show up at the 9 to 5, 12 to 7, all day if you're an entrepreneur, 24/7,
Right.
without acknowledging the emotional bandwidth, the emotional space that's around us? We don't have an option.
Mhm.
We don't have an option anymore.
Now, and right now, we came out of pandemic. Now we had global crisis of historic, precedent. Now we have financial
Yeah.
issues stirring up. I mean, I don't know about you. Fears
System
at
collapse.
my table going, hey, but we
You go
have
to,
that collectively. And I'm
yes,
sure you sense it in your, I sense it in my world. I
yes,
don't know if we're all kind of talking about it. We're
right.
like, fear's banging my door down here because it wants at the table.
It is making its rounds, knocking on the door, handing out flyers,
Mm-hmm.
right? You go to the grocery store and there's 7 items for $70. And this is not organic.
Mm-hmm.
This is not organic. This
Yeah.
is chicken, potato, rice, fresh
Yes.
vegetable.
Yeah. Anything. Everything.
Right, right. We have to acknowledge that. Like, that's a doozy. We are in a constant state of on guard and fear.
Mm-hmm.
Will our economic system that we know bottom out again? Will the health that we know bottom out again? And then we're still trying to show up and be brave-hearted and try to make goals and try to thrive. We are in an emotional soup and we just have to allow it to sit at the table. Any way forward, we have to peel that layer back of us showing up in this representative way. We have to peel that back. It does not serve us. And if we're trying to go forward, it does not serve us. On an individual level, it does not serve you to negate emotionally what's present for you. It doesn't serve you. You will not be able to show up in all those goals and all those plans that you have if you're not equating what is at the table for you.
So we've talked about emotions quite a
Mm.
bit. There's another thing that's mystical to me, but I want to make sure we have time and space for you to share.
Yeah.
Intuition. Now, that I've seen it in my own wife, who you know, Lindsay.
Yeah.
She'll have the thing. She goes, something's not right, and I've learned to really pay attention to that.
Yes. Yes. I say
Let's,
intuition is your sixth sense. I believe it's technically like a superpower. My goodness. Everyone has intuition. I will say that women, those who identify, we got a little bit sprinkle of it a little more. Little sprinkle of it a little more. It is the thing that goes, don't turn down that street. It's the thing where when you were trying to hunt the bear, you were like, I don't think I should go out the cave. Your sight, smell, hearing, taste, touch did not tell you not to go out the cave. Something else did. And if you did, you would have gotten eaten up, right? That's your intuition. So it's a part of us. We're built in, it's a part of us. Intuition is when you think of someone and then they call you on the phone or they send you a text. Or you're sitting in a restaurant and you can feel Someone staring at you, you turn around and your eyes lock. Who or what told you that? Nothing did. No, none of the 5 senses that we are taught. So I say it's our 6th sense. Our intuition allows us to interact with the stimuli around us in a different way. It's our built-in fail-safe if we listen. Same thing with emotion. You can be angry, acknowledge it. That anger is probably telling you something. Your intuition is telling you something. If you feel sad, that's telling you something. Intuition is going to tell you something and even maybe help you stay clear of people, places, and things that you don't want to be in. Intuition has a permanent seat at my table. Mm-hmm. Right next to me. Permanent. I'm not showing up anywhere without checking my 6th sense, without doing an emotional check-in. That's information that I need to make the most educated, informed decision of what behavior I'm going to do. Because my mouth might get loose and I might need to come real direct to you. I'm not saying that's a bad behavior. If I feel betrayed, if there was a boundary that was crossed, I might need to address this, right? My intuition might be like, they have something else going on. They probably can't maybe hear you. You might need to be a little direct, or you might need to have a little bit more grace. Mm. But my intuition can give me some more information so I can make an informed decision about what behavior I want to do. I'm not just out here flying by the seat of my pants off of only logic. What?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
I have to tell you, I think I probably honestly feel like I make emotional decisions, but I try to think just with that logical side, but that's not really gotten me too far.
We're also not designed as such. We're literally not designed to only use that as our only line of information. Like literally our meat suit is not designed to only rely on logic. We are emotional creatures. We are intuitive beings. Why not access the way I think you said standard operating manual, you said earlier. Like when you only rely on logic, you're only reading like half not even half, a third of the manual. Mm-hmm. Of course, stuff ain't gonna operate right if you only read a third of it. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, intuition. Mm-hmm. What have you seen happen that where people you've worked with shut down, and mm-hmm. what do you say needs to happen for them? We talked about intuition superpower. Yeah, it's a permanent seat, right hand seat to your life.
Yeah.
What do you see people holding back for? What do you have to say about that? Like, it feels like to me, it senses like the gut instinct. What I would say a gut instinct.
Yes.
But then you're seeing something that's blocked. We're blocking.
Yep.
Or it's being blocked from external in, or whatever those. And how do we lean into that?
Yeah, this is so good. So good. Just like before, when we said we have to acknowledge it, the block is not coming from the outside. The block is coming from the inside. The block is coming from the perception and beliefs that we apply as like right or wrongs. It's our glasses that we put on. We have been told, trained, all of this, that you shouldn't rely on your intuition. You shouldn't listen to your emotions. That's wrong. That information is wrong. It is wrong. Needed in the past, valid in the past, wrong. So when the block is an own person blowing through, negating when the intuition is talking to them. You have a gut reaction and then you're like, that was last night's dairy. No, that's a different type of feeling in the gut.
Uh-huh.
That's a different type of feeling in the gut. Intuition is like a muscle. Once you begin to acknowledge it, it gets stronger. I don't need any other proof when my intuition speaks to me. If I shake your hand and I get the vibes that it ain't right, I know the answer is going to come out in the wash sooner or later. But I've built up my muscle. If I hear you don't need to be at that place, if I hear don't go down that street, very New York, if I hear don't take that subway exit, take another subway exit, I don't need to trust it. I'm going to roll with it. I don't need to blow past it, be in danger, and then be like, well, missed that one.
Right.
I trust, right? I trust it now. I trust it. I trust that it's going to give me information that I need to make the most informed, right decision for me. Someone else might shake so-and-so's hand and be like, oh my God, they're the best person. For them, I shake so-and-so's hand, I'm like, I don't need to be in that. And I have blew past my intuition, and I've been in bad business deals. That's the biggest one. I've been in bad business deals. Writing on the wall looked great. It looked very aligned. Looks like I should be there. Looks like we can do good business, and the inner workings of it. And I knew it. I knew it when I was sitting in that meeting. I knew it when they were saying, da, 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 da. I knew it.
And two, it's like this message. If we don't trust it, we've just told ourselves it's not valuable.
Right.
It's not
it says you're not valuable. So anytime we blow past our intuition and also not acknowledge our emotions, you are literally creating a narrative within yourself that you don't matter. Your standard operating procedure manual is wrong and it doesn't matter. You're flying by an adopted appendix manual, right? Like,
yeah.
You're literally operating on a different version of the manual. Why would we do that? You drive a Chevy. Why are you reading the Dodge manual? You drive a Chevy.
Now, if an intuition is at the table, and we kind of said your right side here, our right side, fear's over here at the table. How do we distinguish between this or unbounded fear?
Yes.
Like, well, I'm never going back to that depot or that train stop.
Yes. Fear has a cautious worry element to it. Intuition is light and guiding. Intuition is going to be like, don't go down there. Don't go down there. Don't go down there. Don't go down there. Fear is, oh my God, what's going to happen if I go down there? Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
And again, so take these hard, difficult emotions we talked about sometimes, or we label them hard, but they're essential. Fear, anger, whatever that is. Okay. So if we're acknowledging those,
yes,
and understanding those and building that muscle, allowing that muscle to be here, these
Yeah.
emotional muscles. We should do the same with the intuition. They're all the same, is what I hear you saying. Like in the sense of they all need to be acknowledged. They all need to, hey, you're present at the table. Thanks. Thanks for being here. At the moment, we're going to go over to these, you know, but
Yes.
this intuition, whether it's a business deal, like you said, or going down the subway stairs, like,
Yes.
so that's important, I think.
Yes.
And in my world, I don't, even as much as I do with all counseling, I don't hear a lot about this detail of emotions. Like it's a examination, it's an
Yeah.
acknowledgement of it.
Yes.
But what I hear you saying is these other emotions that are sitting at your table, they're not going away. You don't pull them back to the table. You're here, present and accounted for.
Yep.
Intuition should be primary here, and that we don't listen and act on that intuition, and that we don't trust it.
Yes. Yes. Now I can already hear my logical people are like, this is absolutely not. You telling me just a fly by the seat of my pants by some feeling on the inside? I am also saying logic can sit on the left. There's not a competition. There's not a hierarchy. It is more of a collaboration. And also we want to stop the narrative of that certain parts of ourselves are wrong and bad.
Yeah.
That's what it means by allow it to take up space.
Yes.
Allow your table to be as big as it needs to be for yourself. Allow that table to seat as many and as much players as it should be. Your logic can be here, your intuition can be here, what is around can be at the table, and you can acknowledge, touch in, and experience everything at the table to choose the behavior that you want.
Yeah. These are your counselors. These are your advisors. And what I hear too, you help me really flesh it out in my mind. And I go, if you said logic can be to your left,
Yeah.
intuition to your right, but I see what you talked about, mentioned earlier, patriarchy.
Yes.
I go power.
Yes.
And that slants to the logic. You
Yeah.
know, there's a big, I think I hear what you're saying. There's a huge, if we meta this for a second,
Yes.
huge imbalance that we lean to power, logic, these type of things. And you're like, hey, see the others, this seesaw, how out of alignment balance it is.
Yeah.
Okay. If we start listening to give space, what I hear you saying, space for intuition, and then you just said something powerful. So we got our advisors around the table, we got logic, we got intuition. And you're like, but if you've put it where you go, okay, we're giving space to everybody at the table.
Yeah.
What do you have to say, logic? Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
Right.
Intuition. What do you say?
Yeah.
And then we can make a balanced decision to act.
Yes. For self.
For self.
Balance, holistic. You're rewriting that narrative within self that all the players of my meat suit of the manual does interplay connectedly. It is a collaboration and that it matters. You're really reading the whole manual, not just the sections that you've been told are the best.
Okay. If I may, we have a couple of minutes here.
Yeah.
I can't help it. I skew to this logic side. So help me through this. I go, okay, scientific. Let's say for a moment, logic, we've got this rigorous scientific system. We have owned logic, right?
Yeah.
As a species, I feel like we've gotten pretty good in the last 100 years plus, whatever, like really now, but it's still fallible, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this system goes, how do I trust this? How do I know this is right? Like, okay, as simple as a decision potentially as turn left or right, how do we get to a place where we trust it?
So before I answer that, Western culture rely on logic.
Mm.
Western, Eastern culture been about intuition, checking in, the energetic work, been about it.
Uh-huh.
We can argue that we're behind the 8 ball, right? We're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
Western culture is about logic. Indigenous cultures, Black and brown people, rely on the intuitiveness. There is something in my soul that tells me how to act, and I know about it.
Mm.
My ancestors moved as such, and they were all right. Western cultures, it's like, nope, if it's not logic, then that. Okay. So let's even broaden it up. Just because we think and we rely on it does not mean it's true. It's our perspective, it's our classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh
So,
yeah.
right. It's our
Conditioning.
So how do I even open up? I always say, try it. You have nothing to lose. Emotions are a part of our meat suit. We cannot turn off emotions. Your emotions do not turn off until you transition. Right? We do practices to turn off our emotions. We do drinking and drugs and sex and all the things to turn off the emotions. Hey, we kind of figured out that that doesn't work because they come back. Ooh, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Scientifically, I mean, psychology, psychiatry, psychology is a science. It's under a science. So there's logic in science. That's the whole thing with science is proving and disproving, right?
Mhm.
So emotions are not logical. Emotions are a part of us. They're here. So why not lean into it?
Mm-hmm.
The trouble of not leaning into it is you blow up, you have stress in the body, you have ailments in the body. When we don't take care of our emotions, it leads to
Yep.
those.
Yep.
We know that. So we're at
Absolutely.
a point in society and self that our back is against the corner. The only way forward is to allow those things at the table. Or you're going to continue to be in those spaces where you're imploding and exploding all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel that in my own life. But I think you gave me a really distinction. So I've dove in the last year with Eastern spirituality, shamanic, and I go, wow, these people were around for eons. They didn't have X-rays. They didn't have what we know as traditional, which is not. It's new medicine. The new medicine. And what did they do? It's like you said. You just go, our Western culture, yeah.
Yeah.
Science is our God. Logic.
Yeah. This is us over here. Them over there.
But the whole other part of the world and for ancient of time have gone, I don't have an X-ray machine. I haven't built a space shuttle, but you know what my heart tells me? And that's one thing I was going to say. It feels like, please correct me. I go logic, brain. The brain is the God, right? Our brain's smart. We can do all these things. Okay.
Yep.
But this seems like, and this is what I feel like I need to embrace in my own life, the heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
This ooey gooey other side that feels messy to me. It's not as clean and perfect as I can put pixels on a website. You know,
It's
it's
slippery.
not. It
Slippery.
flows out of the edges.
Yeah.
It's more like water.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, it's also very interesting because we're only using, I have not researched this fact in a couple of years, but the last time I looked was we're only using like 13% of our brain anyway. And we
Yeah.
really leaning on this logic. We're not even using all of it. Has to be another narrative out here.
Totally. Higher consciousness, right? Getting out of some of the things we've dealt with as a species for so long and caused a lot of harm and trauma to each other.
Yeah.
And this higher nature that's
Yeah.
in there. But it's the whole system, right?
It's the whole manual. It's the whole system. It's just not those 3 chapters that we've beaten to death and make it so weighted. It's not that. It's not that.
Nikenya, we have so much more to talk about.
So much.
I would love to dominate your time. Don't get me wrong and keep these going. But now what I've done is we got many more conversations to come, which by the way, if you're listening in, we're going to have Nikenya back quite often. We've already
Yeah.
been playing. There was 2 of these we've already playing. You'll be hearing about those very shortly. But Nikenya, I want to give you an opportunity because I want to be sensitive of your time. We're already at time.
Thank you.
So I don't want to say the things for you. I want you to leave people today listening now or the
Yep.
recording later.
Yep.
What do you have to say to them in parting for today's?
Yes. If we sum up this great discussion, which was amazing, which I knew, Cory, we would rock out. What I would like for you guys to chew on is acknowledging, experiencing, and behaviors of emotion are 3 separate things. And we're already past that you have emotions. We're already past that, guys. So speed that up. I want you to acknowledge. I just want you to get there. Now, if you get to, you can experience all the emotions and choose those different behaviors, please get there. But if not, I just want you to acknowledge. Visualize your room, your table, whatever it might be, and allow all the pieces of the furniture to interact together. One is not more than the other, one is not more important. They all are valid and they all work in concert. It's reading the whole manual. That's what I want to leave you with. I hope to see you guys. Please, you can find me on social media, Nikenya Hall. I would love to hear, reach out, send me a DM, a PM. Would love to chat, further the conversation. And I look forward to being back. I look forward to being back, Cory.
Thank you so much. Tremendous blessing and honor to be with you and be able to ask questions. I've learned so much personally. I know the people that are listening, this is good work in the world, and I so much appreciate your time, sharing your experiences, your expertise with our world to make it a better place.
Thank you.
All right, Nikenya Hall, please go find her. Also, abcholisticcenter.net and Nikenya Hall on the socials.
Yes, you'll find me.
All right. Thank you, my friend. Thanks to everybody else for being here today, and have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you next time on another allcounseling.com webinar.